Welcome back to the Fearless Females Voice podcast. On this episode, I am joined by Lauren O'Donnell, who is a London-based female entrepreneur. Lauren has always had a passion for the food industry and found a gap in the market, so decided to quit her corporate job and start her own business called Oatsu, which sells plant-based breakfasts. Many of us have ideas of starting something new, but very few of us actually implement it. I find it really inspiring that Lauren was brave and fearless enough to take that risk and enter the unknown. On this episode, Lauren takes us through her business journey, shares tips on building your confidence, starting a business, how to network, how to grow a following, and getting your first customers. She also takes us through some of the challenges which she has faced as a female entrepreneur and how she overcame this. This is a great episode to gain some insight on the real life of an entrepreneur, as it's not always the glitz and glamour that you may see. Lauren has persisted through and has had big ambitions for her brand, which I know she will achieve with her sheer determination and passion. So without further ado, let's get stuck in. What does being a fearless female mean to you?
When I think of the word like fearless, I don't necessarily think that I am completely fearless. I definitely still have fears, probably more so at the beginning of the journey. Now it's been around a year since I launched my overnight oats business, but I think I was worried, for example, about even going on my stories and talking to camera at the beginning. It wasn't something that I did on my personal Instagram account, but I've got really used to that now, and I think it's a great way to engage with the people that follow me. And then pitching my business, I've got used to that, having to do that a few times, and that's become more natural. So I think if you do feel the fear, there's that phrase, feel the fear and do it anyway. So I think, yeah, you may never be completely fearless, but you've still got to attempt at what makes you scared.
Yeah, completely agree. Keep going, work at it, and that's the only way you're going to get better at anything.
Yeah, exactly.
So you mentioned you started a business about a year ago now. Can you take us through the journey of that? How did it all start? And what is the business?
Yeah, so I'm the founder of Oatsu, and we make mornings easier with our plant-based, gut-friendly breakfast deliveries. So I made, it's a dish called overnight oats. So some of you might be familiar with it. You usually make it yourself, for example, the night before. So I used to make it before work, and then I'd bring it in and enjoy it at my desk. But on the days that I didn't make the overnight oats, I couldn't find overnight oats as a product on the supermarket shelves. So I was in Canary Wharf, there was a Waitrose there, and there were a few breakfast to go products, but nothing that was plant-based, really not much that was gut friendly. And I was looking a bit more out for those kind of products. So I just thought, yeah, this could definitely be a thing. And I was considering leaving for the last few months of that last job. So before that, I spent about 4.5 years working in finance, so in asset management, and then the last job was at a bank. But I always had the idea about working in food. I had this idea, and it was always a dream, because I'd go to lots of food events and like health and fitness events in London, like Sweaty Betty London or Lululemon events, and I'd see some of the food startups there, like giving out their samples, and it just looked like a really fun industry to be in, and everyone looked young, and it just looked exciting. And I got more and more into plant-based eating over the last couple of years and loved making my own food. So I just thought that brands could be more progressive and there could be more choice out there. And I looked at roles in the food industry, but there weren't many in marketing and social media, which is where I ended up, even though I was in the finance industry. So I thought, if there's not many roles I can apply to, I'm just going to try this myself. And I started making overnight oats at a entrepreneurship course that I was going to in the evenings. It was like a 6 or 8 week evening program by Enterprise Nation, and I gave out samples.
After your day job, you'd be going to do this course.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I got to meet a lot of people who had a business idea who were around the similar age there, and they really loved the samples that I gave out, and some of them became my first customers. So it gave me my first confidence boost and like evidence that it might work. And I set up my Instagram. So that was one of the challenges in the sessions, that we had to do that, even if we didn't have any pictures to share, that we had to have a business Instagram account. So that was quite scary.
I can imagine, yeah.
0 followers, and you're like, who am I talking to? So I would just at that time, I didn't have any product I guess the samples looked really basic, but I would just take pictures of them and just post them and then share what I was up to. And it started building from there. And I initially started selling through Instagram, through DMs. Surprisingly, people were like happy to share their pay just a random person through Instagram. And I did that for a few months until I built an online store. And that was in April. And then I've been selling them through the online store, and then also in a couple of coffee shops and a co-working space that I've been able to get into since then. And I've made about 2,500 breakfasts for a few hundred customers since then. And I send them out by courier and people receive them and really enjoy them. So it's been a really great last 6 months making them. At the moment I'm producing them from home, and I got the clients to check my home kitchen, but have been on the lookout for a manufacturer for the last year or so, and that's been a really, really long journey. And I finally found someone who could help me produce them at scale, and that's what's going to allow us to get into bigger retailers because they require that accreditation. So it's a really, really exciting milestone to finally have achieved.
Wow, that sounds incredible. If we take it back to when you were in your finance job, so many people, I guess, including myself, we're in a day-to-day job, 9 to 5, let's say, or whatever the hours are. And I'd say a lot of people do have ideas around, oh, maybe we could do this, or there's a gap in the market there. But not many of those people would take the plunge and actually quit and start something. So can you tell us around what made you do that? How did you, that's bravery right there. So how are you feeling and what made you do that?
Yeah, I think so. The reason that it happened fairly quickly is because I had moved to a new company in a new role, and it was quite a stressful role, if I'm honest. And so when I had that change and I wasn't enjoying this new role and new environment as much as before, it really made me think, like, do I want to apply to another job in the same industry or change to a different industry, or is it an opportunity to start the business that I wanted to for the last year? And I didn't feel ready whatsoever, but I just knew that I was going to have to make a decision. I didn't have much time on the side of that job in the time that I was there to focus on the business at all, to be honest. If I had been in a job that I had more time in, that might have been beneficial to really set the foundations, because I feel like I did go straight in and it was quite sudden. Luckily, I was able to move back home, and that really allowed me to have like that few months to test things out and not be under like too much financial pressure. I wouldn't necessarily say people should do the same and quit their job. If I had a manageable job, I'd probably stick at it so that I had some income coming in, because it is quite hard when you suddenly don't have like a monthly income at all. I did find a part-time job, but then that finished over when like COVID started.
That's so interesting. I do think it's really brave, and I think it's so admirable that you're following your passion. I think that's great, because it's almost like when you follow your passion and you're doing something that you really love doing, the money and everything else, all the good stuff will come. And it's just building the kind of steps to get there, but you're on the right path, right?
I actually lead a food entrepreneurs accountability community where like lots of food entrepreneurs, like we come together every week. It's a free group, and I have a WhatsApp group, and then also weekly calls, and we just check in with each other and share what we're up to. But everyone on there, we were talking about financial pressure at the beginning. A lot of people have said, like, I've set a target for myself of, okay, I think I need to start earning from this business by, say, 6 months' time in order to continue. So I think there's a distinction between, like, there can be outside success or external recognition or praise, but then internally I found that a lot of female founders in particular just mentioned that they are struggling or aren't really sure what indicators to use to show that they are successful, because in the early days there isn't too much financial success. That does come later down the line, I think. So yeah, I guess just like a word of warning that it can be hard, and sometimes you're not sure really if what you are doing is super successful. But I think even if it's hard, you have to just keep going and be in it for the long run, basically. But really, the first year or two, I think, is just about keeping the business lean and trying to grow like as much as you can.
Yeah. And I think that's really important, why people would always say if you're starting something, to start a business in something that you love and are really passionate about. It sounds like you are with your food, because if you don't, then when these challenges come about, you're more likely to just stop or give up. Whereas if you really, really love it, then you're going to continue and persist through it. So
yeah, I completely agree. Definitely, you've got that like North Star and your passion that is like keeping you moving forward, because you've got a vision. You want to see people with your product, or you want to help certain people with your service. So yeah, it helps you get through the darker days.
Yeah. And you started this food entrepreneur group, which I think is great. It's always good to have a community. What made you start something like that?
I noticed at the start of lockdown that a few food entrepreneur friends of mine I've made were mentioning that they were feeling a bit lonely. Well, I just started sending out parcels by courier. Some of them at the start of COVID, I don't know, some of the companies were facing issues. There were lots of parcels going around and some of them were getting delayed. And as a chilled product, that was really challenging at that time. And I felt quite alone too. And I wasn't sure exactly who I could turn to. If you're able to have friends or colleagues that kind of manage a similar supply chain to you, it's just really helpful. So I just thought it would be great to bring as many of the connections that I'd made together so that we could all help each other. And a friend of mine actually saw that I was part of a similar accountability group, not for food entrepreneurs, but it was a separate group that I was part of, that I was telling her that I was really enjoying. And she said, that's really cool that you're part of that. Like, I think we should just make this into, something similar, but for food. And I thought, yeah, that's amazing an idea. And I was thinking about setting up some sort of community anyway. So we joined forces and set it up probably about 5-6 months ago now. And we speak every Friday. And there's just so much support in the WhatsApp group. I absolutely love it. We brought some speakers in, and I think it's just a really supportive community.
I think that's incredible. I think community is really key, which is what I wanted to try and do with Fearless Females and sisterhood. And it's just really nice that whether it's women, and in your case it's women and men, just supporting each other for one kind of common cause, and everyone's very like-minded, as they would be in your group. Everyone will have similar kind of problems or issues or successes that they're willing to share. So I think it's really good. It's great that you've got that community there.
Yeah, amazing. So what kind of community are you looking to set up with Fearless Females?
So initially I wanted to set something up I just kind of opened the platform out and just tried to get women to join, and it's pretty much all women are welcome, and it is just women. I've had a few men try and get in, and I'm like, hey, no, you can't get in. Just been rejecting their requests. But it's more just a safe space for us to talk about anything and everything. So I've had a few people on the podcast talking about, let's say, motherhood or their careers, entrepreneurship, any kind of challenges that we're faced with, and something that we can kind of discuss and just kind of overcome challenges together with. It's just almost that support network, which I think I needed at the time. I've got my friends, but it's always good having an outside perspective. And there's always other women definitely know more or about other topics or new things that we haven't yet gone through or I haven't gone through. So it's always good learning from others.
Yeah, definitely. And I definitely agree that some of the friends that you have from like school, university might be on a different path and not completely understand.
And you mentioned that you have a finance background. So going from finance to starting your business, I know I wouldn't have a clue as to how to, let's say, start my own business. So how did you learn about business?
So I'd say the first thing that I did was try and go to as many events as possible. In London, fortunately, there's a lot for food. So Bread and Jam are a great company who organise lots of talks and workshops and panels with food startup founders. So I went to some of their boot camps. I actually went to one of their boot camps in the first month after leaving my job. It ended up meeting my boyfriend there.
Oh,
which is,
amazing.
yeah, completely unexpected, but really exciting that all happened just so soon after I left my job behind as well. So our paths wouldn't have crossed had I not taken the leap at that point, which is really
There
cool.
you go. New opportunities come about, right?
Definitely. So yeah, and that's how I met a lot of the first friends and connections that I made within the food industry, and then we've kept in touch. And the events, a lot of them stopped obviously when COVID came about, unfortunately, but I've just tried to go to lots of webinars. Bread and Jam also run a food Facebook group called the Food Hub, and there's 10,000 food entrepreneurs in that group, which is
Wow.
insane. It's insane. So I look on there if I need any support. And then, as I mentioned, decided to set up my own smaller community for something that's a bit, I guess, yeah, a bit of a closer connection where we can just kind of say anything to each other and help each other. But yeah, I guess other than that, audiobooks. I really like the book called The Idea in You. That was an early read that I enjoyed, and loads of podcasts. I'm like a massive podcast fan. So yeah,
Oh,
really,
yeah.
yeah, they're really awesome to be on here. But yeah, love like female entrepreneurship and just general business related podcasts. I probably listen to like a couple a day. So those
Oh,
have
wow.
really helped. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big podcast fan myself. Try and get that in when I'm doing my walks outside. It's like, oh, I need to get some steps in. Let's just listen to something whilst going for a nice long walk. So yeah, I find them really informative as well. I get quite a lot from podcasts. So yeah, and also books. Massive fan of reading. So yeah.
Yeah, amazing.
So business consists of sales, marketing, finance. You're pretty much doing everything, right? What has been some of the biggest challenges for you within your business?
So yeah, there's so much that you've got on your plate. The biggest challenge for me that has taken up a lot of my headspace this year that I mentioned at the beginning was trying to find a manufacturer, because it's such a different industry. They don't advertise themselves very well online. Their websites are really bad, if they even have one at all. So that's really about trying to make connections. And initially I was a bit hesitant to reach out to other more experienced founders to ask them if they'd be happy to share any manufacturer related like tips, but I've realized that I need to do that in order to progress. And fortunately I was able to locate a manufacturer through joining a LinkedIn group one night when I was up really late, just like frantically searching for a manufacturer. It got to a point where I was just really sick of the fact that I hadn't achieved this in such a long time, and I thought it has to be possible. So I just went on this very like long nighttime search, and was just messaging various people on LinkedIn who had founded a company that used the technology that I needed to make the chilled product that I do, and ended up stumbling upon a LinkedIn group for people that work in that field, in that particular field, which was really cool and helpful, because then when I posted in there, people offered to help. So that's how I ended up coming across mine. And then I think, secondly, approaching retailers and when to do that. So I learned a lot about that in the Bread and Jam sessions, where there are lots of buyers from retailers there, and they mention about what they look for, how to get their attention, because they receive hundreds of emails, I think a day or a week. And so to cut through that noise is difficult. And I've decided to hold off on contacting them until I've got my kind of manufactured product like ready to go, because I know that's what they need. And so I'm just getting that ready now for when the product's ready in the new year. And then I'd say, aside from that, deciding where to invest. So I started the business on a really lean budget. I had some savings from my job, but I didn't want to completely run out of savings for down the line. So just tried to spend frugally on the business. And it was tempting to invest in branding and design really early on, but I heard from others that in the first year you're going to want to make lots of changes, and so maybe hold back on that. So I worked with a graphic designer but didn't go all out working with an agency. That's something that I'm considering now, just so that it's kind of ready for retail, so that it stands out on the shelf. But I'm glad that I didn't kind of spend too much early on. I just wanted to test the concept really in the first year, but in this next year probably going to be spending a little bit more like marketing and advertising, and the branding and design. Something I'm reading up more about is the profit first methodology, which some people might find helpful if they've got a business. So
can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, so it basically recommends that you put profit aside initially, before from the revenue that you take. You put some aside for profit and for paying yourself and for taxes, and then the rest that's left over is what you spend on the business, rather than traditionally you would just spend what you wanted to, and then whatever's left over is profit or for you as an income. Whereas this flips on its head, and it's like the other way around, so that you make sure that you have enough to be a profitable business, and then you adjust your expenditure according to that. So I'm just putting that into practice now, because as I mentioned, it is difficult in those first years when you aren't necessarily taking your income, and I've tried to it's been an adjustment, going from I guess a salaried lifestyle where you have a bit more freedom and you can do what you want. And I love traveling, I still do, but having to like reduce that and holidays, but it's made me realize that I don't need to necessarily go away too much in order to be happy. And I went on a trip to Cornwall this summer instead of abroad, and it was absolutely amazing. So
yeah, well, luckily there's not been many options of travel this year anyway, so that's kind of stopped that in its tracks. But no, it's good. I really enjoy traveling as well, but hopefully you can do a bit more of that next year. You can always work whilst you're traveling as well, because that's one of the benefits of working for yourself, right? You can take a week off, and I say off, but a week off somewhere, let's say, and you'll still be working a few hours, but then you can spend that abroad and enjoy a bit of sunshine.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to do that. So because my boyfriend's freelance as well, we're trying to do some plan some holidays like that for next year, where we do some work away. But being a product-based business, and because I'm managing production still until I hand over to the outsourced manufacturer, it's been a bit difficult to do that this year. I've had to kind of be here for most of the time, but definitely for the future, that's my goal. That's like my dream. I love
amazing.
To spend part of the year in Bali or Thailand, and then
the dream. Two of my favorite places.
Yeah, awesome.
So you mentioned the manufacturers. Is the reason you're outsourcing because of the retailers? So you need high volume? So you just want to...
Yeah, so volume, but also accreditation. So they require you to be BRC or SALSA accredited, which are the industry bodies which show that certain food hygiene safety procedures have been done to the highest standards. And that's the thing that a lot of the bigger manufacturers do have. So you can't really produce at home because you can't get that. Like it takes years and years, I think, to achieve that. And so the main reason is that, but then also the volume, because they're going to be asking for thousands and thousands of units, so you need to be able to produce that on demand.
And you mentioned earlier on about when you're at the beginning stages of business or with your product, there are many changes that can happen because I guess you're still figuring things out. Can you tell us a bit about how your product has evolved from where it was at the start to where it is now? I know you've got new flavors out, and if you're expanding the range or anything, can you give us a bit of insight into that?
Yeah, sure. So the product has always been like completely plant-based and gut friendly, and the flavors, I decided on them through lots of tests with different like people that I knew and customers, so whittled them down initially, and I've been changing the flavors according to what customers are demanding every couple of months. So got 6 flavors at the moment, some seasonal, more like wintry flavored ones. So like a pumpkin spice one that we had over the last few months. Some fruitier ones, like peanut butter and jam, which is in partnership with Money Life, which is amazing.
I love Money Life.
Yeah, so massive fan. And then the most popular flavour is banana biscoff, which is such a great combination. So dreamy. And I am just finalising which flavours I want to bring out as we move it to being manufactured, and if we're going to keep it exactly the same. At the moment, they are like a really great breakfast, but also a snack. And some people have said that they're like a kind of healthier dessert as well.
I was just going to say, it sounds like a healthier dessert, doesn't it? My partner actually has a big bowl of oats and chocolate and things for dessert after dinner.
Oh,
so
really?
Actually, yeah, I love oats. I love them too. So I think it makes a good dessert, definitely a healthier option.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a dessert kind of breakfast hybrid, especially the ones that are a bit more decadent, like the Biscoff. But I think I'm going to move a bit more towards just being focused on like the breakfast occasion, and yeah, just making sure that it has all the health credentials as we move to the manufacturer. And then I'm also working on a new product, which is an overnight oat mix. So that's a pouch of overnight oats already mixed with everything you need in it. So oats, seeds, chia seeds, and then all natural fruit as well. And then other different flavors that you can just add your own milk to and make your own overnight oats ready to go in the morning. So that's
I love it
right now, and yeah, really excited. So it's going to be like a dual product business.
Oh, that's amazing. And where do you get all your ideas from? I feel like you're really innovative.
Oh, thanks. So the flavors, I'll brainstorm flavors every now and again. I might see inspiration from other businesses online, sometimes doing completely different things. I think I saw so many Biscoff cakes over the summer. Yeah, I saw so many Biscoff cakes, and I just thought, okay, this could be a thing for breakfast too. And then I'll ask our Instagram followers what they think. So I use the polls a lot, and I think that's a really great way to just use the power of your audience, make a quick decision. Sometimes it's different to what I thought people would like. So yeah, I do that a lot too.
Oh, good. And from what we've been talking about, it sounds like you're an expert in networking, because I feel like when I'm asking you, how did you do that? Or how did you learn that? And you're either kind of approaching people or joining groups or talking to people. And do you have any advice or tips for people who are looking to network or understand more about business? And how did you go about it? And what are your tips for that?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it's so important to leverage your contacts and to make new contacts if you're entering a new industry. And the people that I've been speaking to and that have helped me have been absolutely invaluable over the last few months. Something that I've done that I think other people could do is like make your own community. So if you see that there's an opportunity for other people, just to help each other, and you know a few people who are doing something similar to you, and it doesn't even need to be in the same industry. It could just be that you're starting a business or that you're interested in self-development or anything. Don't be scared to start your own, and you can share about that on Instagram and other places. And I think people will end up approaching you if they see value in it, which is what's happened to our food entrepreneur community. I also get a bit daunted to ask people who seem further along in their journey, but I just think a lot of people do get that kind of reward and fulfilling feeling from helping others. So try not to be scared to reach out, just do it. And the worst that can happen is that they say no, or they just don't reply because they genuinely are too busy. And then maybe you can just reach out again and see if they'd be up for helping you. I think most people would if they have the time. So yeah, don't be too scared.
I think that's great advice. I completely agree. It's always best to reach out to everyone and see. And not everyone may respond back, but at least the message is out there. And if they can, they will. And I agree. Many people do want to share their experiences and help others. So I think it works well. It's always worth reaching out. It does sound though like you've gained a lot of confidence from this, because from what you're saying, I'm just thinking like just to reach out to people, start your own group, it takes a lot. Like even you mentioned you were on Instagram and it was something quite new for you, the platform, and you were putting up stories, and I've had to do that myself. And even now I still feel a bit nervous every time I'm like, oh my God, I'm going on to do a video for stories. How did you build your confidence?
Yeah, I definitely wasn't 100% confident to do that initially, because I also was in like a full-time job where I was behind the desk all the time. And when I used to go to meetings at work, I would even feel a bit nervous to share, because I was, often the youngest in the team. And so it was a big switch to suddenly just be the face of the brand. And then I'm the one that's always sharing the updates. I guess the only person really. So by default, I'll be the one sharing the updates. But I think when you do it a few times and then there are people who are cheering you on and supporting you and enjoying and engaging with it, then that spurs you on to continue going. So I think a tip I'd share is to just put yourself in the shoes of the person watching and who you're trying to target, and try and give them as much value as you can, and try and take yourself out of the equation and just think about why you're doing it and how this video or whatever you're filming is helping them. And that should hopefully reduce like the chatter in your brain that's telling you that you shouldn't be doing it. And I can attest that after a year of putting myself on stories and doing lives and IGTV videos, that it's definitely got easier.
Good.
Yeah.
And it sounds like social media has really helped your brand grow. Is that something that you're going to continue using? And how would you say it has helped?
Yeah, it definitely has. I think, yeah, a large proportion of our sales come from Instagram, at least definitely initially. And then now it's like Instagram and Google. So Google organic search and then also Google ads, which I've started doing. But I think definitely in the beginning, you can leverage, if you have a personal Instagram account, you can definitely leverage that and ask your friends and whoever's following you to follow your business account, so you can start growing there. And they probably will be your first customers. I remember a lot of my first customers were people that I'd met in person, and it was only maybe after a month or two that I started seeing people that I didn't know. And I think it's the biggest tool, Instagram, really, that we have at our fingertips, that's free for us to share. And although the algorithm is a challenge and you never really know how many percentage of people are going to see it, it might be only 1 or 2%, they say, of your audience, but I think people really love to follow the journey and feel part of it and get involved in the polls and give feedback on things. And then also I understand that retailers and investors also would, like, they're interested to see if you have a following that you can bring to them as well, in terms of the retailers. Like, can you, if you launch in Sainsbury's and you've got a really large following, you'll be able to bring that following to shop there with them. And so it's important for them.
Yes. Yeah,
really important. It's like, I guess it's part of your brand equity. And so even though it is challenging to post every single day, I try and be consistent with it, maybe every other day. And there's so many other things that you've got on your plate, so it can be hard if you're managing your social media as well. But I think it's really important to try and stay like front of people's mind and just give them as much value as you can.
Yeah, makes sense, because as we said earlier, being an entrepreneur, you're doing everything. So that does also include then your marketing and social media. So I'm assuming all the kind of DMs that you get, orders that you get, it's all coming straight through to you. So yeah, it's almost, you've got to keep it consistent and be at the front of everyone's minds, but then it takes your time as well to kind of, you've got to factor that in as well, I guess.
Yeah, you do, definitely. One day maybe I'll be able to outsource it, but for now, yeah, I'm a one-man band for now, so it's all me.
That's all good. And being a female entrepreneur, you've talked a bit about the challenges and you've shared some good experiences there. Do you have any other tips or advice that you would give to someone who's looking to start something, whether they're stuck in that job and looking to make the move or already made the move? and are looking to grow something or just starting up? So you've had a year's worth of experience here.
I know, I can't believe it's been a year. It's absolutely crazy. Just gone like that. But I would say just like take the first steps. If you've been thinking about it and it hasn't actually been brought into the world yet as a prototype, then just make something and try and put it in front of people who are close to your ideal audience and get feedback from them. So that might be friends, or at that course that I was on, luckily it was a lot of like young millennial people who were my target audience, and I got great feedback there. So yeah, just try and make a start with whatever the project is. And they say that you've got to be embarrassed if you're not embarrassed by your first like product, then you've launched too late or early.
Oh.
Yeah, too late. Basically, like it's going to be bad. It's going to be bad in the first days. And I was handwriting my jar stickers for the first actually like 4 or 5 months. The design process took a really long time to get the graphic designer and design the labels. So for the first like 5 months, I think I was writing out every label. It took about an hour every production. It was the night before I did the production morning. I'm so surprised now I look back that I was doing that, just the dedication to do that. But also now I look back, I just don't think it looks particularly great, but that's all I had at the time. And so, and people didn't seem to mind. Like they still.
I was just gonna say, like, you know, people like you'd expect that people want perfection, but actually it's okay if your photo isn't perfect or your sticker isn't perfect. People don't really mind. Like if I was to receive a product, it's almost like I'm not looking at what's wrong with it. I'm almost thinking this is great, it looks good, it tastes good, whatever the case is.
And people appreciate that you're a small business and that you're doing this for yourself and that you've put your love and your soul into this product, you know, even if the label's not perfect. So yeah, don't be scared to just start. I see a lot of other brands though. I look at other brands who have developed, say, their branding with an agency before they even start their social media. And I do sometimes think like, oh, would that be a good way to go? Because it looks so professional. But I am actually glad that I took the year to make the products myself and really thoroughly test the concept. And I can then, if I raise investment in the future, or if I want to, now that I am going to be working with a manufacturer and approaching retailers, I've got proof that at least there's demand for this product.
Exactly. You've built to know that it works, and that's really important. So yeah, that'll go a long way.
Yeah, definitely. I think have the best like evidence you can have of demand is where people have actually put their money into it, rather than if you're like a tech app and you have signups, or like if you're a book and you have like pre-orders, but basically any intention where someone is saying like, I am willing to pay for this, or I have actually paid for this, that's even better.
Proven product. There you go. So tell us, Lauren, what's next for you? What's happening in 2021 outside of this manufacturer?
Oh, so literally that's all where my head is at the moment. But aside from that, and then working with the branding and design, which should result in a new look and feel, which I'm really excited about. As I mentioned, I'm also working on the brand new product launch of the dry overnight oat mix. Those really are the main focuses, at least for Q1. And literally, I can't even think of anything else because that's just where my head is. But
what about personally for you?
Personally, so it's been an amazing first year in the new relationship that I'm in, and so I'm really excited for that to continue growing. On a personal level, in terms of where I'm at in my life, I mentioned that I'm living at home, and I probably still will continue to live at home because it just makes sense financially right now where I am in the business. But eventually down the line, probably look to move in with my boyfriend at some point when I can.
Oh, he's had it here first.
Yeah, we've said that would be amazing, but as I said, it's like it is tough in those first years. Like it would have been something that I would have been able to definitely afford, and would have maybe been able to jump in sooner when I was working full time. So in a way, it's a bit of a sacrifice. It's like, okay, I have to stay at home at least for a little bit. till I make sure that this business is like fully generating like, you know, like good revenue and profit.
Yeah, and that's not, I know you call it a sacrifice, but at the same time, you're lucky enough to have somewhere that you can then go back to as well. And your parents live in London, as you're from London, right? So it's great that you can move back into the same city that you were originally living in. So I think it works well. And I think it's a great move. You know, stay at home, get the finances in, and also it will pay off in the long run. This will all pay off. You've taken a risk, let's say, in doing this, but at the same time, it's not a risk because it's something you really believe in, something that you've shown works, and you'll make it work. It sounds like you'll make it work. You're growing it. You're doing all the right things. So yeah, it sounds really exciting.
Yeah, I am really, really excited for what's to come. I feel like I'm just on the cusp of where it's going to be. Yeah, it's going to blow up and be much bigger. And we're going to be able to have the breakfasts in so many more people's hands.
Absolutely.
And, I just really want more plant-based, gut-friendly breakfast to like exist, and just want to get out there before other brands move into the space, I guess.
And that is your mission, and you'll make it work. I'll be sending you photos of when I see it in the supermarket when I'm buying it down the road.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed. But thank you so much for coming on my podcast, Lauren. It's been really nice to speak to you.
Yeah, it's been such a pleasure. Thanks so much for having me, Chandni.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to the Fearless Females Voice podcast. Be sure to join our Facebook group called Fearless Females and stay tuned for the next episode. Bye for now.